Hello YouTube. The video I am going to do is a something new on my part. But all the more it may not be new to you. And if it is new to you, welcome. I am doing an Outlast whistleblower time correlation, and I've done my fair share of gameplay. I've watched other people play. And in doing so, I've, done my research and try to figure out how the first game, Outlast, and how Outlast Whistleblower coincide together, how the time correlation come together. What was Mr. Park doing while Miles was escaping? How are these two timelines connected, and where do they meet and where do they end? This is strictly my opinion. This is what I think. I'm not going off someone else's opinion. I'm not going off on someone else's video. I'm going off by what I think, how I feel, and what my opinion is. So I wrote everything down, and this is strictly on how I feel in my own words, in my own perspective. So please forgive me that my eyes dart off a couple of times the screen, because like I said, I wrote it down. It's on the side right now because I have to organize this video, and this is how I do it. So I'm going to be reading off what I read, what I wrote down, and we go from there. So hope you enjoyed this video, and away we go. What we obviously know already is that Whistleblower is what starts the main game. Wathan, or Mr. Park is what he's mostly called, is seen sending an email to Miles Upshur telling him about what he's seen at work and how it needs to be in the public eye. He does this in secret while at the asylum. Miles, as we know, receives the email and heads up to the mountains for whatever predetermined time it takes for him to get there. Meanwhile, Mr. Park is caught by the main antagonist of Whistleblower, Jeremy Blair, which according to him is the supervisor of his supervisor, and is subdued while knocked unconscious, and later placed into the testing room, where he is placed through painful tests like the other patients in the morphogenic engine, forced to watch a film that is connected to said entity, the whale rider, which during that time Billy Hope is in the pod, becoming the host of the Whale Rider, in which begins its reign of terror across the asylum. In this time, with an hour in tow, they mention, which is 2 hours, Miles arrives to the mountain and finds that the asylum is in shambles and blood can be seen everywhere. He collects evidence and goes deeper within the building, only to find a gruesome sight of a dying soldier who tells him to leave while he still can, telling him what he's seen. Miles treads deeper into the chaos, where he has a brief and yet terrifying first encounter out of many others with Chris Walker, who has a rather important agenda of his own, throws him through a glass window, making him plummet to the first floor. Whilst coming in and out of consciousness, he has the first encounter out of many with Father Martin, who believes Miles to be a disciple to witness his said sacrifice. Once he has fully come back, Miles realizes that he's got what he needed and should get out. Seeing that some of the main doors are under lockdown, Miles goes to the control room to get the doors back, but he notices on the CTV cameras that Father Martin turns off the main power. Because of this, it frees Mr. Park from his restraints. However, it also allows Whale Rider Billy to wreak more havoc onto the facility, which he bears witness to him killing other patients trying to get out. Mr. Park running among the chaos and watching other patients, or variants as they're described in the game, roaming free and wreaking havoc of their own in the sub-laboratory or underground lab, while even being chased by Frank Marina, the cannibal. All this while Miles is trying to get to the main power back on in the basement of the asylum. Before Park can escape from the main asylum floor, Miles attempts to turn the power back on, but is subdued by Father Martin, who injects him with a sedative before being taken to the prison ward of the asylum. At this time, Mr. Park can be escaping through the airlocks to the staircase leading outside of the prison yard. All of this happening while Miles is subdued. Mr. Park tries to maneuver his way through the prison yard where he climbs up the tower, finds a way back through the different part of the asylum, having random encounters with other patients and the whale rider. He finally reaches his destination where a short distance radio is located due to him overhearing a scientist and officer talk about that could reach the outside services like 911. Mr. Blair stops Mr. Park, destroying the radio, and attempts to kill him, but decides to leave him to Chris Walker when he hears that he is approaching, which gives Mr. Park his brief but terrifying first and apparently last encounter with Chris Walker. Mr. Park manages to elude Chris Walker while having a brief encounter with Father Martin for the first time, which can be seen writing down the drain in blood. After some distance, Mr. Park attempts to escape from the roofs. He misjudges a jump from the prison tower to the main roof and falls into another part of the asylum, in which he runs into Eddie Goodskin, the groom. He was the test subject that Mr. Park sees for being put through the test at the beginning of the game. He is no longer fearful for his life, but is delusional and is in search of a bride no matter what the cost. Mr. Park is then being chased and captured in a locked locker dragged to his chamber, where he is then knocked out with gas. We learn that Mr. Park has been knocked out for 12 hours. It can also be presumed that during these 12 hours, Miles regains consciousness. He meets the twins for the first time and learns that their desire to kill them, but must not do so, for they are part of Father Martin's men. While he is trying to find his way out, he is following the trail of blood, for it is his only guide. He goes through a series of passageways while trying to find an exit that is cut short when a malfunction happens, which causes an explosion where it launches him down to the prison ward of the asylum, where Chris Walker can be seen and is now pursuing him. Miles has been going through hell and back again, from following the trail of blood into the sewers of the asylum and being chased by Barons into the hands of the deranged Dr. Richard Twigger, who tortures Miles and cuts some of his fingers off for the hell of it. He escapes Traeger and in doing so kills him with the elevator. He then proceeds to follow Father Martin to the chapel. During this time, Mr. Park awakens to nothing but gruesome acts by Goodskin. When it is his turn, an unseen patient goes at Goodskin, giving Mr. Park enough time to escape, in which Miles is recording Father Martin's sacrifice, and with a newfound key goes to find the exit. Further down the road, Mr. Park has managed to kill Goodskin, and Miles is taking the elevator down to the underground laboratory, while Mr. Park, with the key that he found, is trying to find his way out, and everything seems to be coming to an end. While Miles has an encounter with Chris Walker, he happens to see him meet his demise by the wall rider. While Miles is trying to disconnect Billy from the life support in which to eliminate the wall rider, which is capable of crushing the building and everyone in it, Mr. Park not only sees the burning chapel, but also sees the body of Dr. Traeger, as soldiers have already descended onto the facility. Learning that they have the all clear to kill anyone and everyone on site, he must sneak and escape the soldiers. We can only presume that at this time, Miles has become the new host of the Whale Rider after killing Billy, but is later shot by the soldiers, yet due to the Whale Rider is now wreaking more havoc, drawing Miles' journey to an end. As the scream fills the radio, Mr. Park is given an out as the soldiers head down to the sub-basement for backup. When he reaches the front door, he is met with Mr. Blair, resting at the front door asking for help. Mr. Park is left with the choice to either help him or try to go around him, in which his only salvation is through the front door regardless. In an attempt to help or just leave, Mr. Blair attacks and goes to kill Mr. Park, but not before being killed himself by the whale rider Miles, all witnessed by the exhausted Mr. Park. Mr. Park makes his escape, and as he does, he so notices Miles' Jeep that you see in the first game. He gets into the Jeep and notices something in front of the asylum. He pulls out the camera and sees a figure on the steps that we can only guess to be Miles, now the new host of the Whale Rider. Not wanting to find out or waste time, Mr. Park goes to make his escape, as the Whale Rider now making its escape onto the unsuspecting outside world. The scene then cuts, and we are then taken to another scene where an unseen figure is warning Mr. Park about his dangers that he could face if he lets the information go out into the public. That he and his family and everyone else in his life is in danger. He asks if uh, he asks if despite this warning if it is really worth it. With some hesitation, Mr. Park lets the information free. Though Miles is dead, and Mr. Park, who is now facing the consequences of his good deed, both their sacrifices were not in vain. So that's my take of the correlation of this timeline. The questions that I had was, did Miles really help Waylon? Like, did he kill Jeremy so that Waylon could escape? Did by any chance at any point, unbeknownst to us, did they, possibly bump into each other, like pass by each other, thinking that there was a patient or something? Miles, was he completely corrupted by the Whale Rider due to what he's seen? Because it was believed that anyone who had seen terrible stuff could be possibly compatible to the Whale Rider and therefore become the new host and possibly control the Whale Rider because of nanites. Those are my questions, That's the thing about this Outlast franchise, that it has so many questions and yet only a good amount can be told by it. So many questions. It makes you think. It makes you wonder what the heck is going on. But that's my opinion. That is my honest opinion. So, that's what I think what happened. That's what I think what the timeline is, how, when, and where Miles's story starts and ends, and where and when Mr. Park and his storyline begins and ends. That's what I think. So, also, is Miles really dead? You can do more research. What happened to Park? How's his life going? Those are questions that I have. Yes, I have done research, and yet nothing can happen. I've been told numerous times by other people what they think, that Miles was completely corrupted by the Whale Rider and is wreaking havoc of his own. Who knows? We can only go by what we feel and what we think. And that's how I feel. That's what I think. That's what I feel.